Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it, man. So Game 5 on Monday night, we're a couple days removed from Game 5 of the 2023 NBA Finals, where the Denver Nuggets close out the series by beating the Miami Heat 94-89. So we'll go ahead and give our takeaways on that.
I mean, like just the overall game, it felt like nobody was able to hit shots from the 3-point line. I mean, the Denver Nuggets, they shot 17%. We shot 25%. Just overall, the game was very, very chippy. A lot of physicality was allowed in this game. Both sides. I mean, everybody was getting at it, and they're playing like it was an elimination game. I mean, every single person out there on the court was putting in the effort. And then in that fourth quarter, it just felt like it was a really, really tight game. And then Denver Nuggets started off with like a little quick 5-0 run, and then we battled back and forth. And then towards the end, Nikola Jokic really started to take over that game. And, the Miami Heat offense just basically ran out of gas as it has this entire series. I mean, the inability for anybody besides Jimmy Butler, and even him who, he is hobbled, but he was unable to get to his spots. Bam in the first half was playing a phenomenal, but even he slowed down in the second half. And outside of Kyle Lowry giving us a spark and Max Strus starting off the game well, again, it was the same situation where nobody was really able to buy their own shot. I don't know if it was just guys running out of gas, or this is just who we are as a team, which I probably believe it's the latter. And then the Denver Nuggets, I mean, Nikola Jokic poured in 28 points and even feel like he had 28 points. I mean, that's just a level of effectiveness that he had. Michael Porter Jr. probably had his best game of the entire finals. I mean, even if he wasn't shooting well from the outside, he was just getting after it, rebounding. I mean, 13 rebounds, and he was just very, very active on the boards. Christian Braun came in and he provided them good minutes as well. And Jamal Murray, I mean, he kind of struggled, 6 for 15. But even he hit a couple big shots. And overall, I mean, this is just who the Denver Nuggets were. They got contributions from guys all around. I mean, even in a game where Aaron Gordon only had 4 points, Bruce Brown had 10, but outside of Nikola Jokic, nobody was put up like more than 20. The Denver Nuggets still edged out, and so that's the importance of having role players who can really contribute at a high level. So ultimately, I think the Miami Heat's offense just ran out of gas. I mean, defensively, I think they did a pretty good job overall in the season on Denver, but Denver is just, their firepower is just too much. I mean, just the overall size and the skill that they contain is just too much, man. So
yeah, tough way to end game 5, man. I felt like, going down the stretch in the fourth and the late in the third, it was just a lot of the role players taking majority of the shots until Jimmy stepped up in the late fourth, where I think he had what, nine was it 9 straight points for the team, or 11? I think it was like 11. I think he had like
11.
Yeah, it was 11 where he stepped up late. But even then, I felt like, those 10 to 12 minutes before that, where it was Cody Martin and Kyle Lowry and then Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. And then you don't see Bam touch the ball, or he's trying to shoot, or then you don't see Jimmy take the shot, or he's passing it up, and it's either a crazy shot or 2 seconds left on the clock. And for me, down the stretch, man, I feel like Jimmy and Bam just they let the game fall into the role players' hands instead of taking it over and try to advance the series to game 6. And on the opposite end, it was just Jokic, him getting his baskets, and I felt like they played some phenomenal defense down the stretch as well. It was a very defensive game. It was a very defensive game going into that fourth quarter. Very defensive, low scoring game. I felt like both teams were fine at it. And then, when your star players show up, or one of them does show up, and you do get a couple of the role players to be there with you, late fourth is going to be a game. And I felt like it came down to that. So for me, Miami, they fought hard. I felt like, they could have played better. Jimmy with this injured ankle. I mean, he injured it against the Knicks series. That was about 2 rounds ago, and people are still saying, hey, he's hurt, he's hobbled. But I mean, if you're here playing and you're hooping, and I mean, people are praising you for that closeout series against Boston in that game 7. I see no excuse for you to use that ankle as an excuse now. So for me, Jimmy, he had to step it up. Instead of that last 11 points, he was going into that fourth quarter, I think 2 for 13 and 2 for 14. He was shooting horrible. He was nonchalant, and it just looked to me like he was out of the game. He hit a couple threes, but at the same time, man, if you're there that full fourth quarter or any other part of that game, it might be a whole different story going into that game 6. So for me, Jimmy, Bam, I mean Bam kind of slowed down second half, but he's doing a lot on the offensive end. He's doing a lot on the defensive end, you know, chasing around Jamal Murray, chasing around Jokic, fighting on the rebounds against Jokic and Aaron Gordon. So there's a lot that he can do with his energy, and it's going to dwindle down towards that late game stretch, and it's tough like that. So I mean, man, well, you know, Kyle Lowry came in, he, you know, hit a couple big shots, but towards the end, I feel like Miami's offense just, you know, they kind of starched out and it came pretty slow. So for me, you know, good one for the Nuggets. You know, Jokic, as always, phenomenal performance, very efficient, 12 for 16 shooting, 28 points, 16 rebounds. So he played great, and, you know, he closed the series out. So, you know, shout out to the Nuggets.
Yeah, one thing I knew going into game 5 was the fact that closeout games are always tough. So I knew that both of these teams were going to come out extremely aggressive. And for the Denver Nuggets, I had a feeling that these guys were going to come out a little bit flat. A lot of guys weren't going to be hitting their shots like they normally do. And they came out turning over the ball at a very high clip, turnover after turnover after turnover. They really just couldn't settle into the moment. And I mean, it pretty much happened throughout the course of the game, really up until that fourth quarter. The Miami Heat, they tried to steady the ship. They tried to do the best that they could with what they had, and pretty much they were limited all night. You know, not like, you know, Jimmy Butler. You know, obviously, if you take away his fourth quarter heroics that were cut short, you know, he really didn't do much first 3 quarters. You know, Bam, you know, was doing his thing. Max Strus, I guess. But other than that, not many guys are contributing, you know, heavily for this Miami Heat team. But in that fourth quarter, what the one thing that stood out to me was, you know, how aggressive these guys, how aggressive both these teams were. You know, these guys are going after it for like maybe 5-6 minutes without a basket being scored, and the defensive level was at an all-time high. Both these teams were just battling out in a closeout game, and but the Miami Heat were fighting for their lives, and the Denver Nuggets were looking to clinch themselves their first NBA championship. And you know, down the stretch, it just came down to who really wanted it more. And then, you know, obviously Jimmy Butler was doing his thing in that fourth quarter, but you know, the Denver Nuggets had 2 guys that really just that wanted it more. Got to a point where Jamal Murray one time pulled the ball out, told Coach Maloney, we're gonna slow it down. Next thing you know, high pick and roll with him and Jokic. It turns out to be a mid-range jumper for him, and the Miami have to call a timeout there. And the next thing you know, Jokic just says, "I'm just gonna take over this game and get down to the basket." If they're gonna keep switching this, because honestly, it was just tough for the Miami Heat overall to contain Jokic, because every time that him and Jamal Murray would run that pick and roll, Cody Martin is getting switched onto him. Caleb Martin is getting switched onto him. So it's like, what can Caleb Martin do in that situation? Jokic is going downhill. He's getting to the basket. He's going to score at will. And so, you know, the Miami Heat, they had their hands full in this one. There's not much they could have done to win this series. You know, the Denver Nuggets were just a far better team from top to bottom, and you know it is what it is for the Miami Heat. So, you know, all the credit in the world to the Denver Nuggets for capturing that first NBA championship. You know, obviously it's a different feeling for them. They got everything reeling in their way right now. But what's one thing you want to see the Miami Heat do in this upcoming offseason? I'll be going into next. I can't hear you.
It already has definitely kickstarted. I mean, with the Bradley Beal rumors and the Damian Lillard rumors. I mean, immediately, a report after, the day after came out that we attempted to trade for Kyrie Irving at the trade deadline. So there's attempts at getting more offensive firepower, but it's guaranteed that's like the number one focus is getting high volume score. I mean, Jimmy Butler, he's a great player. Bam's a great player, but just a 3-level score is exactly what this team needs. I mean, multiple times during this offseason, this postseason, especially with Jimmy Butler getting injured, you know, and Tyler Hero getting injured as well. It felt like we really lacked a 3-level score, and so a guy like Damian Lillard can really just bend defenses and open up a lot for this team, especially in this offense where it's a lot of motion, a lot of shooting, and a lot of dribble handoffs with Bam. So I feel like him and Bam can pair well together with Jimmy Butler as the number 2. And then also at the same time, getting more size. I mean, the Denver Nuggets just had 3 guys that are above 6'10", so definitely getting a guy that can fill the role as a backup center or can maybe work alongside Bam. There's reports of Christian Wood potentially being interested in joining the Miami Heat. There's a lot of reports going around of us shopping for a guy like Kristaps Porzingis and attempting to match the salaries of both Beal and Porzingis and getting them both in a trade. So we'll have to wait and see. But definitely 2 things is offensive firepower and size. So
Are you willing to let go of Tyler Hero?
yeah, definitely. If I can get Bradley Beal, 100%.
If a guy like Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal step into the conversation, Tyler Hero got to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he first one out the door. I mean, it's literally the first person out the door.
Yeah, he's getting shopped out. He's
Yeah.
the main guy in all these trades.
For me, Miami, like, go ahead, Yahya.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, for me, Miami, like I'd be saying, I feel like they do need another elite star scoring option to pair with Jimmy Butler and that defensive minded Bam. I feel like they have Jimmy and they have a bunch of the role players, and then you have Bam. I feel like Bam's not a great offensive option, but he does get his baskets. But if you want a go to guy down the stretch, that guy named Dame Lillard, Dame comes to he comes to Miami, it's a whole different type of atmosphere right there. Jimmy Butler can play his game, Bam can play his game, and then you have another elite scorer, top 3 point guard of the league, and Damian Lillard. It kind of can stretch the floor with a bunch of undrafted guys that are already hooping and showing up. It just adds more talent to the offense. Obviously, you're gonna let go Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, a couple of first-round picks. At this point, been to 2 finals in what, 3 years? At this point, go all in. Dame could take them to another finals. It might be that last piece that they can miss. And obviously, they have to fix that size issue. They can't go into this offseason with Bam as their only center and Udonis has him retiring. He might come back another year just in case they need help. But I'm not going to the offseason with Cody Zeller as my backup center and Kevin Love as my other power forward that he's starting with me. They need another guy that's taller, much stronger than Bam, much more physical, that can fight on the boards and can help on the defensive side of the ball as well, but can move low key. So Christian Wood's not a bad shot, but there's other players out there. Maybe Miles Turner, if they're open to trading Turner for some picks or something. But we'll see what happens. But those are the two stuff that they need.
I think this offseason is going to be extremely interesting for the Miami Heat simply because Eric Spoelstra is going into the last year of his contract, and they haven't started contract negotiations whatsoever on an extension or anything like that. And so I'm sure Spoelstra in the back of his mind is thinking, I'm not trying to go into the next potentially 3 to 4 years if I extend with this team with 7 to 8 undrafted guys on my roster. I understand that, I'm a very great head coach. I know what to do. I know how to build these guys and put these guys in positions to win. But at the same time, when you look at the landscape of the league, all these guys have superstars, a lot of superstars, cut 1 or 2 on each and every team. And he knows that he has Jimmy Butler on his roster. Bam's solid, but they know that they need more perimeter help. And I'm pretty sure that if the Miami Heat don't make any significant move in this upcoming offseason, that I can't see in a picture where Eric Spoelstra re-signs with this team long term for maybe the next 5-6 years. I just can't see it. So this is going to be an interesting offseason for the Miami Heat. I think they do land a superstar. I'm not too sure which superstar it'll be, but what does a trade for Damian Lillard look like though? With Tyler Hero, who gets thrown in, who gets left out?
It would have to be something of a Tyler Hero. The thing is, so it's like ultimately, I think the Nets can offer a better package for someone like Damian Lillard, considering the fact that they have multiple picks. But like if they wanted to do right by Dame and he's like, I want to go to Miami, it's really up to him. If he decides Miami's my destination, then it would have to be a package, something circling around a Duncan Robinson, maybe Caleb Martin, and then Tyler Hero in that 18th overall pick. It would have to be a package centered around that, just because if Dame requests, it's why obtaining Bradley Beal is a little bit easier, just because nobody really wants to take on that contract, and we have the ability to match his salary, so it wouldn't take much. It would just take Hero, maybe a pick, and Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson to match salaries. And potentially there's a scenario where we're also able to get Kristaps Porzingis in that as well. So obtaining Dame really just comes down to Dame picking Miami as a destination, and them just deciding if they want to take on Hero and a couple picks. So
Dame or Beal and Kristaps, which package are you taking? Which one do you prefer?
I think I'd rather take the Beal and Porzingis one, just because Porzingis, I think he fits well with Bam, and you have a secondary scoring option in Bradley Beal. The only thing is that's like 4 guys, like all contracts are wrapped up right there, and then leaving little room for anything else. So
first off, what pieces do you have for all that?
So what?
What pieces do you have for all that?
What you mean?
Bill, I get even Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, 2 first-round picks, but Porzingis
Porzingis is commanding a lot of money. He's like, I think he's looking for like 36 mil, something like that.
Is he a free agent this offseason?
I believe so.
I think they can get a better package just selling Porzingis on the side solo.
I don't know about that.
There's a fire sale going on in Washington right now, man. They're saying their best asset is not worth nothing on the market.
Yeah, because nobody wants to take on that Bradley Beal contract. That's why.
That
in tech-
250, nobody wants to take that on. But adding Porzingis to that is just like, yeah, here Miami have everything for free.
Now, I mean, we could throw in a couple more picks, but that's really it. I mean, it's not like Washington has any leverage in these trades. I mean, they're the ones that are looking to they basically want to emulate what OKC does and just get rid of everybody and just because they have new management and now they have a new GM, so they're looking to start from scratch.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like it's a little too much though, just to get 2 or 3 picks back for that type of talent.
Plus, what they are, there is a scenario where they do get maybe picks back, and then they trade up in the draft, to get a player that they're looking for. So, because they do have, I believe, the 8th overall pick in this draft. So,
yeah, they're gonna need to make a move soon, especially with the news coming out today that the market for Bradley Beal is extremely low, and if they put him on the market today.
I think Boston is looking. Boston apparently doesn't want to trade for Bradley Beal. Personally, if I was Boston, I would trade for Bradley Beal, but that's just me though. I would trade for Bradley Beal. I think he, as a fit, I think he fits better.
Than Jaylen Brown?
Than Jaylen Brown.
Obviously, him and Tatum, they train together, they work out together, they're from the same spot. So I feel like the chemistry obviously is gonna be better, but I don't know. Yeah,
I just feel like
Bradley Beal as a player. Are we gonna talk about Bradley Beal as a player just because he's in Washington, or does he need a new environment? I
think Bradley Beal's a really good player. I think he's a very solid basketball player. I think, like, if you ignore the contract and the injuries that he has, that he does pick up injuries quite frequently. But if you ignore that, I think this guy's a really, really solid shooting guard. I mean, he's at least a top 30 basketball player, if not top 35. I think he's up there. Like, it's just the fact that this year he was sharing the ball out with Porzingis and Kuzma, and his stats were about like 23 a game on like 48%. It wasn't as like the 2020 and 2021 season where he averaged about 30. So, I don't think he's that 2021 version of himself, but I still think he's a really, really good option.
I don't think the Celtics should go after Bradley Beal. I think, they should go after a point guard. That's their main issue, number one. They don't got a point guard whatsoever. The Marcus Smart experiment, it's been worse. It hasn't worked out for them in any year. So they need somebody that can truly command the offense and run the show, and that's not Marcus Smart. If you swap Bradley Beal and Jaylen Brown, they'll be a little bit better offensively because Bradley Beal's a guy who's able to put the ball on the floor and get a basket.
He can play make.
And he can play make a little bit. But at the same time, I think they can just continue with what they have right now. If they just add a true point guard, and they'll be just fine. But yeah, I mean, I think the Miami Heat should go after either of those guys, Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard, and pack up any package that they can and get whatever they can get and add some more pieces to this team because this is four times they made the Eastern Conference Finals, 2 NBA Finals appearances in that span, and they got nothing to show for it. At the end of the day, they're the runner-ups, and so it's not a good feeling. It's not a good spot you want to be in, and so it's going to be interesting to see what the Miami Heat do.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lake, now that's overkill.